Hey guys, Ultra Maximus here, and I wanted to talk about this subject for a while, and it's Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti. Really depends on which version that you want to believe in. Here in North America, we've got Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. Down south, they call them skunk apes. But this hasn't always been an interesting topic for me. Personally, I love watching the show Finding Bigfoot. I find it very entertaining. I find it interesting. There's something about it that hooks me. They actually did a show about 20 minutes south of me in Bloomington, Indiana, in Monroe State Forest. And I would actually love to go camping out there and do some quote-unquote squatching. However, I really doubt there is a Bigfoot, and I want to talk about why. But I would love to believe in Bigfoot. My mother, she loved watching all those shows. She got me into it, Bigfoot and UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster, all these conspiracy type things, aliens. She loved that stuff, and I really enjoyed watching those types of shows, unsolved mysteries and all that kind of stuff when I was growing up. And I'd love to believe that there is a Bigfoot. And I'm not going to say 100% without a doubt they do not exist. I can't say that. However, I'm 99% sure that there aren't any Bigfoots, Sasquatch roaming the woods, and there are reasons why, and I'll talk about them. And it's not because somebody would have stumbled across them at some point in time. No, that's not the case. Just because no one's come across one isn't evidence that they don't exist, because science is consistently finding animals in the wild that are newly discovered to humans. I've seen birds and raccoon-sized mammals that have been discovered in the past 10 years that were previously completely unknown to science. Hell, even the mountain gorilla, that wasn't discovered until 1902, and that's far beyond the days of Darwin and really early discovery and exploration around the world and all that kind of good stuff. So something as large as mountain gorillas, and they travel in big family troops. They didn't discover those until 1902. So it's feasible that an animal could be hiding from humanity. I mean, there's still a lot of wilderness out there, and nobody can be everywhere at one time. So that alone is not proof that they don't exist. I want to sit down and really kind of deconstruct Bigfoot and why I think they most likely do not exist. And it's just a matter of simple logic and looking at nature, looking at biology, and looking at what evidence we should stumble across. So, without further ado, let's talk about some of these things, shall we? First and foremost, Sasquatch are supposed to be nocturnal animals. And that I have kind of a hard time with. There are very few primates that are nocturnal. The majority of primates on this planet are daytime animals, which is why primates have an innate fear of predators. They're constantly looking for predators. And of all the apes, all great apes are daytime animals, save humans. I mean, obviously we have a huge population that live their entire lives by night, but we're a little different than the other apes. Our big brains kind of mess us up. We're no longer wild. We've gone stupid for how intelligent we are. But gorillas, bonobos, chimpanzees, orangutans, they are all daytime animals for the majority of their lives. Now, not to say there is zero activity of these primates at night, but it is very, very rare and the exception. These animals live by the daylight. They go up into trees at night, they make nests, beds, and they sleep the night away. Well, Bigfoot is supposed to be a nocturnal animal. That's why they're always going out at night and they're looking for Bigfoot. And I am not going to say that it's impossible to have a species of ape that is nocturnal. We do have primates that are nocturnal. Right here is a great example. This is a tarsier. It's a very small monkey. It is not an ape, but it is a New World monkey. And they are nocturnal. However, I want you to take a look at his eyes. Our little tarsier here has ginormous, bulbous, round eyes. And those pupils they're small in this picture because it was taken with light around it, so they get a condensed down. At night, those things are going to get huge because they need large eyes to soak up as much light as possible in the nighttime atmosphere. I mean, there's just no light, so they've got to have larger eyes to pick up light so they can physically see. And all animals that operate at night do the same thing. If they are a 100% nighttime creature, they have massive eyes. If you look at owls who operate at night and only night, their eyes are enormous. Even an owl, other owls still have large pupilled eyes because they primarily operate at night. They hunt at night versus like a hawk or an eagle. Other types of birds' eyes are very small in comparison. If we took another type of monkey and did the eye ratio from this tarsier to a squirrel monkey, it's a huge difference in size. Look at our eyes. Our eyes are way smaller than that, percentage-wise, for head and body to eye ratio. Nocturnal animals generally have larger eyes. Even big cats have pretty good sized eyes, and their pupils can dilate out really well so they can see at night. And their eyes, while not as big as a tarsier's in percentage, are still a little larger than other animals because they do operate at night. But they also operate in the daytime, so that kind of makes it a little bit of an adjustment there. But if Bigfoot was a completely 100% nighttime animal, like so many people say, you know, it spends the majority of its time at night, then it should have massive eyeballs, right? Biologically speaking. However, every single report of anybody that's seen a Bigfoot does not report oversized eyes or pupils. And I find that very odd because they see them at night. If they're only supposed to be running around at night, or the majority of the time at night, their eyes, to me, logically, biologically speaking, would be larger ratio-wise to their head and body size. It's just that I find very odd, don't you? All right. Another claim is that Bigfoot eat deer. Okay, I can kind of see how a large animal would have to prey on deer logically. We have a lot of them here in North America, and they are a great source of nourishment. However, there are no great apes, save humans, that hunt large game animal. Now, it has been documented that chimpanzee and bonobo will supplement their diets with small birds, mammals, lizards, those kind of things. It is not unheard of them to eat animals because protein is part of their diet. However, they usually get their protein from insects. But they will eat small animals. But they don't go and hunt large game animal. You don't hear of chimpanzee or bonobo in Africa taking down a gazelle. It doesn't happen. We, humans, are the only great ape that hunt large game animal. And that separated us, our ancestors, from the other apes as far as evolution goes, and helped accelerate our evolution and our brain development. Well, Bigfoot supposedly, he hunts deer. Okay, the issue I have with that is A, like I said, there are no other great apes that hunt large game animals. B, he would be competing with other predators, lions, bobcats, wolves, coyotes, bears, leopards, panthers. We have a good number of pretty large predators in this continent that he'd have to be competing with. And really, the only thing they say is that where you hear coyotes, Bigfoots are not far behind, because Bigfoots will give coyote kind of yelps. And I find that very strange. They would have to so there's so many large predators that they would have to compete for that food source, and being a at least endangered predator, I think that would be detrimental to the species. There, too much competition. But the other thing would be that would turn Sasquatch, if he was a predator, the predatory characteristics would make him more aggressive as a species. Predators are not known to be nice and cuddly. There's a reason people get scared from them. We as primates don't like predators. We fear them as a general biological rule of thumb. And they're territorial. They would either go after other animals to protect their territory, attack them, or they would make a lot of noise to protect their territory, saying, hey, this is my spot, move on. And you don't hear of other animals being attacked by a Bigfoot. You don't hear that. They don't talk about that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really fit with the kind of inquisitive, almost gentle-like personality of a Bigfoot, scared personality of a Bigfoot. A predator would stand and defend its kill. They don't like to run away unless something larger is in the area. And the only thing that would be larger than a Sasquatch would be a brown bear. So if a wolf come up, a Sasquatch wouldn't run away from that. Maybe if it was a large pack of wolves. Maybe a human could scare one off, although we would seem a lot smaller than a Sasquatch, I would think. So I have a hard time dealing with this entire concept. I don't doubt that if it did exist, it would have to have meat in its diet, but I wouldn't see it taking large game animal. I would see it going small, like other primates, squirrels, birds, those type of things. All right, another issue I have is that there are so many inconsistent reports on size, shape, and color of these animals. And that's just very odd. That, to me, would seem to indicate different species or different breed of Sasquatch, which if it was we'll call a threatened species or a rare species, then you wouldn't see that many like that. It's just that it just doesn't really make much sense. Now, there are size differences in chimpanzees and bonobo and gorilla, but not tremendous. You do have large and small, but it's not the size of these Sasquatch reports. Some of them are a little bit taller than others, and I can kind of see that. But the descriptions of just general shape seem to vary, with some having more conical foreheads, some not, some being extremely robust. And I can believe easier than the wild variety of colors. I've heard so many different color variations on these things, from black fur to dark brown fur to a light brown fur, reddish fur, to gray or white fur. And in some cases, it's mottled. And I find that highly, highly subject, because species of animals keep the same coloration throughout. You don't see a variety of color variation in animals because that's one of the ways they recognize each other and sexual mating signals. The only time you see a lot of variation generally is in domesticated animals, such as dogs or cats. But in the wild, all lions are the same color, all tigers are the same color, all deer are the same color. You will have the odd genetic variation. Maybe you'll get an albino or something to that nature, and you will have slight variations in color, but they're all in the same pattern. But we've seen so many people report so many different color variations. I could see a Yeti in the Mongolian hills being white or gray to camouflage itself in that snow pattern. However, I just couldn't see in Montana there being a black Bigfoot and a light red-haired Bigfoot and a white or gray Sasquatch. I don't see that. That seems highly unlikely to me. That would, again, suggest either domestication, which is obviously not the case, or it would suggest that there are multiple breed or species of these creatures. Okay? And the other possibility, I suppose, would be mutation from, I suppose, inbreeding could cause that. Some great genetic malfunctions. And if they are a threatened species, I could see that being an issue, but there would be other problems as well, such as, malformed digits, behavioral issues that would surely cause the animal to go loopy and stumble into a town or something to that nature and lose its wits, not to be able to hide, sort of thing. So I don't think that is the case. It just, animals are a particular color, like I said, so they can continue their species, to let other animals, hey, yes, I'm a tiger, I'm a deer, flaunt those colors for mating. That's just the way it is in the animal kingdom. Breeding. Let's talk about breeding for a minute. That's another issue with this species. It would have to be an ape, and it's supposed to be a large ape. They're supposed to be, 7 to 10 feet tall, somewhere around there, so it's a pretty good sized ape. The closest in size comparison would have to be the mountain gorilla here. And apes breed slowly. Some ape species, it takes until their 10th year before they become sexually mature. And when they do breed, they generally only have one offspring at a time. Unlike animals they would have to be competing with, like wolves and coyotes and lions, bears can have anywhere from 2 to 6 at one time. So the numbers would be a lot lower there. And they generally keep offspring. Apes keep their offspring around for years. It's sometimes up to they hang around up to those 10 years. On average, I think it's probably, 2 to 5 years an ape will keep their offspring around, and then it's generally sometime, it can be a season or two before they breed again, unlike other animals that are consistently breeding. So every year or every other year. And if they're breeding every other year, that's probably because they're having 6 at a time. So that's a huge issue I have with it. If they were taking so long to breed, and it's supposed to be a threatened species, they would become extinct at this point. They wouldn't be around. And that, to me, is more of possibility than anything, that these creatures, that there was some kind of North American ape, because there's lots of reports from Native American cultures and stories and even cave paintings in this continent in regards to an ape-like creature. They could have been around. Those Indians, those natives could have seen them, and they might have died out because they were just outproduced by other competitors. I think that's more likely than the creature still roaming North America at this point. Another issue I have is with Bigfoot families, Sasquatch troops. Apes in general are social creatures. They are generally found in large groups. Mountain gorillas live in pretty good sized family groups. Chimpanzee troops can get massive. They can develop little armies and battle each other all the time. Monkeys are in humongous groups, cluster families. So it's odd to me that we have this almost bipolar depiction of Bigfoot. On one hand, they'll say that Bigfoots are known to be in family pods or troops or whatever you want to call them. And sometimes they'll have a sentinel that kind of sits and watch, kind of like a prairie dog. And if somebody comes up, especially during the day, so they can sleep, and if something happens, it can alert the others and they can move and all this happy goodness and everything there. However, on the other hand, I would say probably 97, 98% of all Bigfoot sightings are of solitary creatures. If they're living in these family troops, why do we only see one Bigfoot when they do make an appearance? It doesn't make any sense. Now, there are apes. Males will typically venture off when they get old enough and go find another troop to join. And so there'll be a short period of time where a chimp or a bonobo or a gorilla could be by itself before it finds a new troop. I can see that. Orangutans live solitary type lives for the most part. However, the majority of apes typically live in family groups. So why are so many reportings of Sasquatch sightings of solitary creatures? Every once in a while you'll hear one of a mother with a baby. And in that case, that doesn't make much sense to me further, because generally apes, if they have young, count on other apes to help raise them. They're very family oriented. The aunts and uncles tend to really help, care and protect these offspring because they do breed so slowly. That's why they live in these families. It helps protect the species. So these experts saying on one hand Bigfoots live in family groups, but all of the sightings truly contradict that, and I find that to be an issue. And Sasquatch would have to be omnivores. They would have to eat everything under the sun. Apes in general are constantly feeding. Look at orangutans. Look at mountain gorillas, chimpanzee. They're constantly foraging. They're constantly eating. And they can't just live off of deer. They have to live off vegetation, and that's what they say they do, but they don't tell you what other vegetation they might eat. They'd have to be stripping leaves. They would have to be eating berries, those kind of things. And the stripping of leaves would leave obvious evidence, especially if they were in family troops. You can tell when trackers go through the jungles in Africa, they can tell when a troop of gorilla or a troop of chimpanzee have been in the area by the grazing, the foraging through the forest and jungles. They strip everything in sight that they can eat. They break limbs. They leave nests. Especially gorilla, when going through the jungle like that, they just leave a mess as they go through. Orangutans, you can tell when they go through. They graze quite a bit as well. They strip a lot of leaves. So if Bigfoot did exist, we would at least, and if it was a rare animal, I can see that being a rare animal, but we would still see its evidence of where it had been. It would have, especially if it was a troop animal, if it was a family cluster, you would be able to tell, if there were 6 to a dozen Bigfoots in an area, they would strip an area clean of vegetation. You would be able to see that, I would think. So what do you guys think? Those are my thoughts, and the reason I did this video wasn't to say I'm not a believer. I would love to believe. I guess you would call me a skeptic, right? I like I said, I love watching Finding Bigfoot. I loved watching those types of shows when I was a kid and growing up, and I would love for somebody to one day find a Sasquatch and prove they're alive, prove they exist. However, wanting to believe and looking at it from a realistic point of view, looking at it with logic and looking at biology and how would these creatures fit into nature, how do they compare to other apes uh, that exist in the world, and looking at their behavior and what has been reported. These are just some of the things that I find unlikely. So, that's where I stand on it. What do you guys think? Leave a message, leave a video. I'd love to hear from you. Do you watch Finding Bigfoot? Do you want them to actually find a Sasquatch? Have you seen a Bigfoot in the wild? What are your experiences? Like I said, leave a comment, make a video. I think it's a fun topic, it's an interesting topic, and it's definitely one that will continue to thrive for many years to come. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great new year. Everybody be safe, and look for more videos in the future. Thanks again.